But even you'd have a conversation with, let's say, the director and the actors, and you do those roundtables.
Yeah.
And I'm always fascinated by the kind of things you got them to talk about, which is not the typical. And the problem is, oftentimes I used to always find, because I also work behind the camera as a producer on a lot of the Bollywood stuff during my stints at MTV and Channel V. So for me, it's always been like, don't ask the obvious questions. Don't talk about, okay, how was your role? How did it feel doing this? But you would always get them to talk about their process.
Yeah.
And give almost like, opening that curtain to what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Were there specific points that, if I say pick a few from the conversations you had, which were like, okay, these were great moments?
I think the whole idea of doing the roundtables, if you're doing it 6 months later, because the roundtables we used to do at the end of the year, they were very closely modeled on the Hollywood Reporter roundtables, and Variety does a couple. I mean, everyone, LA Times did roundtables, so they were modeled after that. They used to do it just as a precursor to the Oscars, and I used to do them at the end of the year when you kind of decide, you make your best of lists and stuff. So it was like an alternate to a best of list. I would try to call the actors whose performances I thought were the best, or the directors the good part about having that distance between the time that the film released and 6 months later is that they've also got perspective and we've also got perspective. When you're interviewing someone 2 days before a film comes out, or even 2 days after a film comes out, it's a very different perspective. They haven't even seen how the film has been received. We don't know how that film is performed, and more than anything else, you don't have any distance between the work you've done, so you're not able to actually have a sort of objective point of view about it, and therefore I think one could ask questions about process and also whether they saw that process worked or not. But if you ask them that 2 days after the film release or 2 days before, then the questions will be a little bit about what was it like working on this. And also, we have to admit, like, all these guys have to say it's a great film. Even if they know it's not, they're selling, at that time, they're selling those films. 6 months later, it's surprising how many of them were actually quite honest to admit that, I didn't really enjoy this process, or I think I could have done better. Even talking about like previous films, maybe not that particular film, because I'm guessing they were good in it, that's why they were at that table. But it was just, I really enjoyed doing these roundtables. It was, I remember the first one we ever did, it was, there was Amir Khan, there was Ranbir Kapoor, there was Irfan Khan, and there was Nawaz. And it was the year that Nawaz had Gangs of Wasseypur, Irfan had Pan Singh Tomar, Ranbir, I don't remember what it was for. I think it was Rockstar. I think it was Rockstar. Rockstar came before Barfi? I think so. No? I don't remember. And Amir had Talash that year. And to get, first of all, I was like, I don't know if it's ever going to happen. But it had never been done. I mean, no one had done it here. So they were really nice about it. And Nawaz was shooting in Vai for a film with Ketan Mehta, which was like hours away. The hardest part of roundtables was always just getting that table together, that date. I was in the artist management business before I was in the artist management business. I mean, just coordinating that date was the monstrosity. And the egos, because why he can't come at this time? I mean, like, so you have to kind of be gentle. And Nawaz was shooting in Vai, and so the only way we could have done it was if we could shoot it at midnight. So Nawaz, after his shoot at 8, would drive 4 hours to Mumbai, do it, and go back to the shoot so he could go back and shoot in the morning. And it all worked out, except that 1 hour before the shoot, I got a call saying that Irfan can't come. And I was like, what? It's the first time we're doing it. It's only 4 actors. You can't have 3 actors on a round table. And they said, no, because he's shooting some VIRF film. It's the first time he's shooting with VIRF and it's gone on. I was like, you can't be serious. And I had to make all these, and Irfan had put his phone off, so I couldn't reach him. And I had to start calling people, other directors and producers, like, please put in a word, I can't do this. Like, Amir is coming, Ranbir is coming, this one's coming from Vai all the way, I can't do this. And Nikhil Advani had just worked with him in D-Day, and Nikhil made the call to him. And I was like, Nikhil, please do it. And Nikhil was really nice. And Irfan came very, very pissed off to be pulled out of a set to have to do this interview. But it really went off, and he shot till like 3 a.m. and it was amazing. Like, the energy in the room, and when it's not there also. There have been enough where we've done where you can see that these people are just not, there's silences, or that they're just not vibing. And then it's completely incumbent on you to make it happen, to make the magic happen, to lighten the mood, to figure out a way to kind of get them together. And sometimes it doesn't happen because one guest can be wrong, and it's not happening. And we've had some fun experience. I mean, and not that he was a wrong guest, but one of the last ones we shot, one I shot was one where we had Akshay Khanna, because he had done this film called Section 3, I forget the name of the film. Section 375. I think he was incredible in it. But Akshay Khanna is a really shy guy. What was I thinking? He agreed to come. He just went. He clammed up completely. And we had Ranveer Singh, who is the other end of the spectrum. So it was like one guy who is just like on 200 Red Bulls, and one guy who's just like isn't opening. And we had Shahid Kapoor, and we had Ayushmann. And we had
you had the spectrum. Basically, you had the spectrum.
It was, but you know, like the rest of them had got into it, and this guy was just, and they were trying. We were all trying to get Akshay to open up. And as I would like, Akshay, you did the scene, and this is, and how did you do it? And he's like, I don't know. And you're like, this is not working. Yeah. And then they jumped in, and they took on my job because they started asking him questions. And it worked to some extent, but sometimes it doesn't happen. Yeah. And that's also an experience, I guess. You see a different kind of roundtable. But I kind of have, I brief them usually before. I used to brief them before, and I used to kind of give them a sense that here, the idea is to open up, and the idea is to be unguarded, and the idea is to, and we don't care about anything else except the job, about the craft, about the process. So it's not like you have to worry about the kind of questions. There's nothing. I mean, it's not a personal interview at all. But there were some that, I remember the first year I didn't do an actresses roundtable because I had this stupid thought that but women will not do it together because women don't like. I mean, that's the cliche, and how stupid of me to. So the second year I said, let's give it a shot, and I had Kangana, and I had Deepika, and I had Vidya, and I had Nimrit, and that was incredible, and they were so appreciative of each other. It was amazing, but the first year I just figured it won't happen, and I didn't even ask. So I mean, the roundtables were something I really enjoyed doing. I really enjoyed doing.
What it also kind of gave us, and I know that we live in a very different time today, but you always saw actors when they were on screen, or when they did like almost the most basic of pre-movie interviews. Yeah. You never saw them outside of that context. Yeah. You didn't know their perspective on their craft. You didn't know how they looked at, like, not even just actors, I think even directors, writers, everybody else. And you suddenly had this point where they were talking about stuff beyond the obvious.
Yeah.
And that was like, I remember for me, someone like me, it's like fascinating to understand how their mind works.
Yeah.
Versus today, when like they're always, most of them are sharing most of that stuff. Let's say on social media, they're doing a lot of that stuff.
Correct.
I find this intersection of who's a creator, who's an actor, to become this weird intersection of, I don't know where that line is. Like this clip, make sure you watch the full episode.